Hey, how's it going, folks? My name is Hellbent, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create your own click recorder, macro recorder, whatever you want to call it. But anyways, here's a quick demo of what we're going to be doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press a hotkey, and this gives me the option to start recording some positions, and then later on I can use those positions to send keystrokes, mouse clicks, right click, click drag, whatever I want to do with those positions. So I'm just going to go around and click set up a few positions. And that's good with me. And then I can play it now that I have those recorded. I think I have this script set up so that way now it'll go through and click those positions. Right? But this is one option that you can do with it. You can just create a list of places you want to click and then have it click those positions over and over again. The other thing that you can do with it is set up more in-depth macros. Now we're only going to touch on this at the end a little bit because there's a lot more that I'm going to be covering that you might need to do, like creating objects and everything like that, and lists of things that you want and the order of things that you want to do like that. I'm actually going to be, shortly after this tutorial is done, I'm going to be starting to work on a somewhat decent macro recorder. So if you're not actually looking to create your own, I don't know why you clicked on a tutorial to create your own, but if you would rather, you can check my auto clicker section on my homepage to see if I've already released the one that I'm going to be starting to work on soon. But it'll have a lot more features than this one, because I can't do tutorials on those take hours. Okay, so anyways, before you ask, yes, I love coffee. I do love coffee, and yes, it is okay if you treat me to a cup of coffee. Before we continue, I know that these kind of videos do tend to have an audience that is outside of the normal audience for my videos, which are AutoHotkey videos. So in order for you to follow along, you need to have the programming, the scripting language AutoHotkey installed on your computer. If you don't have it, don't worry, it takes less than 2 minutes to get it and have it installed on your computer, and you can be typing away. What I'll do is I have a couple of very short, like 30-second tutorials on how to get AutoHotkey, how to create a new script, and how to run a script. I'll leave the links in the description. You can skip the first and the third video by just listening to what I say right now. The site to get AutoHotkey is www.autohotkey.com. If you know how to use a website and go to their page and then go to their download and then install, you don't need to watch that first video. The third video, how to run an AutoHotkey script, well, all you need to do is when you created a new script, you created it in a place, some folder, maybe it's on your desktop. Go to that place and double click it. That's how you run it. Or you can right click it and it'll give you the option to run it. There, I just saved you another 30 seconds. For the second one though, you might want to watch. You might want to watch the second video on how to create an AutoHotkey script. Okay, I'm going to be writing in an editor called Site for AutoHotkey, but it's okay if you don't have this. You can just write it in plain Notepad. I spent the first year of coding writing in Notepad, so you can do it. It just doesn't have all the features that this editor has, like the ability to run right from it, has some nice text highlighting, has autocomplete, etc., etc. So if you would like to get a copy of this editor, what I'll do is you can find a copy on the AutoHotkey forum. There is a sub-forum for editors that you can use in AutoHotkey, so I'll leave you a link to the AutoHotkey forum homepage, and then you can yourself, you lazy bastard, you can go to the editor page and then look for the site for AutoHotkey. Other than that, let's go. Let's do this. So this is probably going to be I've already recorded this a couple of times now, and each time it's like an hour. Nobody wants to watch an hour-long video, so, I have a choice. Do I cover everything really, really in depth, or do I just try to describe what I'm doing as I'm doing it, and hopefully I can get it done a little bit quicker? So, you know what? Nobody wants to watch an hour-long video, so you might not understand everything, but you should be able to follow along, and you should sort of be able to understand what I'm doing. Okay, to start this off, I have a new script here. The first thing I'm going to do at the top, I'm going to type single instance force. Single instance, comma, force. What this does is, if the script is already running and I try to run it again, it closes the old instance and starts a new one. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the chord mode. Now the chord mode has to do with the later on I'm getting the position of my cursor, and the chord mode just tells me what are the positions relative to. And I'm going to make it so that way it's relative to the screen. So rather than it being relative to any particular window, it's relative to the whole screen. So chord mode, mouse, comma, screen. One last thing before you ask, no, I will not give you a copy of this. If you do not type it out yourself, you do not get it. Like I said, if you just want the script, I'll have a better one made soon. You can go to my homepage and get the better one. I'm not going to give you a copy of this, because as soon as I'm done this, I'm going to delete it. It's gone. Chord mode, mouse, screen. What else am I going to do? I'm going to use hotkeys for this. Now the one I'm going to create later is going to have an interface and you can type things into it and blah blah blah. For this we're just going to use hotkeys, so everything's going to be done all in hotkeys. So one of the hotkeys is going to be to play back everything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that way I can start the clicker with it, or start the macro, start the playback with it, but also stop it. So in order for me to do that, I need to make it so that way I can press the same hotkey more than once. So if it's already running, I can still press it again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say pound max hotkeys, max threads per hotkey. Max threads per hotkey, and I'm going to set it to 2. Now, you know what? Just in case you're pressing like number pad 2, or the hotkey over and over again, I'll set it a little bit higher. I'll set it to 5. So this way you're never going to have a problem with it. What else do I need? Chord mode, max threads. I might need something else, but I think I'm okay to move on for now, because I don't want to sit here trying to think about what I need. So I'm going to add in a return. But before that return, I do know something I'm going to need later, and that is a variable that's going to hold a delay. So after I perform an action, perhaps I want to wait a little bit before I perform the next action. So I'm going to create a variable to hold the delay for that. I'm going to set it to 100 milliseconds. So in milliseconds, I'm going to put 100. Okay, now I'm going to create my hotkeys. You can use any hotkeys you want if you're not familiar with hotkeys or whatever. I do have a couple of tutorials on them, but you can just copy what I'm doing. So I like to use the number pad keys. I don't like using hotkeys. I hate hotkeys. I prefer to use graphical user interfaces. So I don't use hotkeys much. So when I do, I usually use number pad because I don't use them for anything else. So yeah, num pad 1 and then return. Oops. I'm also going to use number pad 2. Before I continue, because there's the potential that you're going to be sending clicks with this, what could happen is if you try to press a hotkey at the same time as you try to exit out of it, it might not register because it's registering both a click and the hotkey. So to prevent that from ever happening, we're going to put an asterisk in front of our hotkeys. So that way, no matter, even if we're pressing any other key plus number pad 2, it's going to work. So even if I'm holding down control, if I press number pad 2, it's still going to work. If I'm holding shift plus control plus K plus any other button combination and I hit number pad 2, it's still going to work. Next, I'm going to add in an emergency exit hotkey or an exit hotkey. So I'm going to make it escape, control plus escape. So that's the caret means control, which is shift 6. And this is just going to exit app. When your script is running, you're not going to be able to tell it's running. So one way you can tell is down here. You'll have a green icon. So I have a couple running right now. So let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of that. So you'll see it there, and you can just go like that and exit, or you can press your hotkey to exit it. I'm going to create one last hotkey, and this hotkey is to pause. So I'm going to use the pause key, so asterisk, pause. colon, colon, and then pause. So this is going to be a toggle to turn the script on and off, or pause the script on and off. Okay, there we go. We have everything we need to begin. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set it up so that way we can record clicks. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an array. I'm going to call my array position. So array is just is basically a variable that holds a lot of variables based on a position. So if you're familiar with like spreadsheets or whatever, you can think of an array as being all of the cells on your spreadsheet, and then we can reference a particular cell by using its index in that array. So I'm going to say position equals an array. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable that's going to keep track of how many positions I've added. I'm just going to call it index, and I'm going to set its value to 0 to begin with. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up what is my exit condition. So once I start recording, I'm going to press a key, and that's going to stop my recording. So the key I'm going to use is the escape key. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say while. Now I'm going to say exclamation point, which means not. So while I have not pressed escape, while the escape key is not being pressed, do all the stuff that's inside. If the escape key is being pressed, exit out. So while not, get key state. What key? Inside of parentheses, inside of quotes, escape. That's the key I'm going to use. You can use any key you want. As long as I haven't pressed escape, loop over this stuff in here over and over and over again. What are we going to loop over and over and over again? The first thing I'm going to loop over is a tooltip that tells me what I'm supposed to do. Tooltip, and the tooltip is just going to say press a specific key. I'm going to use, to record my clicks, I'm going to use the control key. So when this is running, if I press control, that's going to add a new spot. You can use whatever key you want. I'm going to use control. So CTRL. Press control to record a new position. Then I'm going to drop down to a new line, and I'm going to tell myself how to exit from recording. Press escape to stop recording. Okay, and then I'm going to drop down another line, and I'm just going to tell myself how many things I've recorded so far. Positions recorded, and now I'm going to take that variable index, and I'm going to display whatever that current value is. So I'm going to say inside of percent marks, because I'm referencing a variable here, index. Okay, new line. What else do I want to do now? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see if I'm holding control. So I'm going to say if get key state. This time I'm not looking for the opposite. I am actually looking to see if I'm pressing it. If get key state. So I don't need that exclamation point. If get key state, open close parentheses, inside of that open and close quotes, inside of that CTRL in my case. Okay, before we continue, here's something to note. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do is I need to add another condition to my if statement. The reason why is because this is going to be happening super fast, like 100 times per second, perhaps even more. What's going to happen is I can't release the control key in time for it not to get back up to the top and start going through the loop again. So what would happen now is as soon as I press control, it's going to add like 20 positions. That's not what I want. I want it to only record if I press control, and then I have to wait. It has to wait for me to release control before it can record a new position by me pressing control again. In order for me to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm not only going to say it is the key state for the control being pressed, but also I'm going to create a variable that keeps track that I can switch between 0 and 1, and I'm going to test to see what its value is. And then as soon as I go into it, I'm going to flip it, and then it's going to have to wait for me to release the key in order for that to get flipped back again. So I'm going to create a variable. I'm just going to call it is pressed. It's going to no. I don't want to look to see. Here, I'll do it an easier way. No, I don't want to do it that way. What I'm going to check is if it doesn't have any value at all, which it will the first time I run this. So if it doesn't have any value at all, or if it has a value of 0, this is going to be true. So I'm checking, is the value of is pressed, does it have a value of nothing at all, or does it have a value of 0? If that is true and I'm holding control, go ahead and execute this code. The first thing I'm going to do as soon as it starts executing this code is I'm going to change the value of this is pressed variable, so that way later on I'm going to reset it in something else, so that way it doesn't keep adding 100 click positions just by me holding control for a fraction of a second. Is 1. So to begin with, if I'm holding control and is pressed equals 0, this statement is true. Execute this code. Change the value of is pressed so when it goes back up to the top of the loop, it can't come back in here because it's not is pressed anymore. Tongue twister. Okay. What else am I going to do? I'm going to get the current position of my cursor. Mouse get position. I'm going to create 2 temporary variables. I'll call it tx to store the x position of my cursor, and ty to store the y position of my cursor. That's all I need for that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my position array and create a new instance of it, or a new index of it, and what I'm going to put into it is an object that has two key value pairs. So one, let me just, like I said, I don't want to spend an hour on this, so let me just do it. Position, which position in my array am I going to be using? I'm going to be using the index. So before I do that, actually up here, after I change is pressed, I'm going to say index plus plus. So index was 0, now index equals 1. And now I'm going to be using in my array in the position index. Or in the first time, it's position 1. So this is the cell. And I'm going to say that this equals an object, and this object has an x key, and the value for that x key is tx. It also has a y key, and the value for the y key is ty. Like I said, I would love to explain more about what's going on here, but it'll make the video much, much longer. I don't want it to be an hour-long video. So anyways, so I'm going to have an array. So as soon as I click it the first time, the first position in my array is going to have 2 values. It's going to have a value for an x position and a value for a y position. And later on, I can use those to move things around. The next thing I'm going to do is I need a graphical user interface. So that's one thing I forgot to do. So just like in the demo, I'm going to make it so that way I show up a little square wherever I add a position. So that way I can tell the places I've added and what order I added them in. So to do that, rather than clog up, I don't want my hotkey, the stuff in the code in my hotkey to get too big. So I'm going to split up the code, and this part I'm going to put into a function. And I'm going to call the function Bob. And Bob is going to create 2 windows. So I'm going to take that and down here somewhere. The first thing, I'm going to create 2 windows. The reason why I'm doing 2 windows, normally I would expect that I'd be able to do 1, so I'm going to create a colored square, and then on top of that I'm going to put some text. Normally, in normal interfaces, I'd be able to just do that all in one window, but for some reason, because of the options that I'm using, it keeps burying the text underneath the square. So to get around that, I'm just going to use 2 windows. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, because I might be running this over and over and over again, the first thing I'm going to do is, when I run this, if those windows already exist, I'm going to destroy them. If they don't exist, I'm still going to try to destroy them. Trying to destroy something that doesn't exist, nothing happens, so it's okay to do that. So I'm going to say I'm going to call my GUIs GUI1, GUI, comma 1 colon. Okay, don't over explain. I'm going to say destroy. I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to say GUI2 colon destroy. Okay, now that I've destroyed them, now I'm going to recreate them. First I'm going to do GUI1 colon, and I'm going to give it some options. The options I'm going to give it, I'm going to make the window stay always on top, so it sits on top of all the other windows. I'm going to remove the border and all the trim and everything from around it by doing minus caption. I'm going to make it the last window that was found, so I can do something else in a second with it. I am going to make it so that way it doesn't display one of these icons down here, or whatever you call these. So I'm going to make it a tool window so it doesn't get one of those. And I'm going to make it so that way it doesn't, even though I draw something on it, I'm going to make it so that way I can still click through that thing. So I can't actually interact with this window. I can click right through it. So to do that, I don't have the code memorized, so I'll go and grab that code. Because it's not too often you create a window that you can click right through. Here we go. So I'm going to add that, and just in case, I know I've encountered a couple of months ago somebody that had problems with DPI scaling, so just in case that's a factor, I'm going to make it so that way, even no matter what your resolution is, the size is going to be the same. So I'm going to say minus DPI scale. Okay, I think I might need another option in there, but I think I'm okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the color for my GUI. Let me get rid of that so you can see properly. Color, and I'm going to set the color to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's just a random color. The reason I'm picking this color is because chances are you're not going to use it for anything else, and I'm going to make that color invisible, so you're not even going to see it anyways. Now that I've set the color to be that, I'm going to take that color and make it to be invisible by typing winset, comma, transcolor. And then I'm going to, which color do I want to make trans? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show that window. Where am I going to show it? I am going to show it at X0, Y0, so it's right up in the top corner. I'm going to give it a width of whatever your screen's width is and whatever your screen's height is. You don't have to worry about looking it up. We're going to use a variable that grabs that information for you. So the width is, and then 2% marks in between those, A underscore screen width. And then H, 2% marks, A underscore screen height. And we don't need to give it a name, so we're good. Okay, now I just need to do the same with a second window. So I'm just going to copy this code here, those 4 lines after the destroy, and paste those in and change the 1s to a 2. Now I know this isn't going to be a problem, but just in case, I don't know, maybe some scenario that happens, what I'm going to do is to the second window, I'm going to add one more option. I'm going to make the first window its owner. What that means is, one of the things that means is that the second window will always sit on top of the first window. Like the owner will never sit on top of a window that it owns. So I'm going to say plus owner 1. So window 1 now owns this window. I own you, bitch. Okay. That's it. Bob is done. Now that we have that window created, what we're going to do is, as soon as we get our position, store our position, what we're going to do is we are going to display a square at that position. To do that, I'm going to type out GUI 1 add progress. So I'm going to add a progress bar to be my color. I'm going to need to do this as an expression. Wait, do I need it? Yeah, I need to do it as an expression. So %, and then in quotes I'm going to put an X, and then outside of the quotes I'm just going to use that TX variable. TX. Now I'm going to make those little boxes 20 pixels by 20 pixels, and I don't want them to start right where my cursor is. I want the cursor to be in the center of that, so I need to offset by half. So since I'm going to make them 20 by 20, I'm going to take the position that I got for my cursor and I'm going to subtract 10 from it. And then I'm going to, in quotes, with a space. This time I need to make sure I have a space before I type Y. Alright, it's very important. If you do not have this space here, you're going to get an error. Make sure you add that space and then Y. And it's going to be TY minus 10. So it's, once again, I'm just offsetting it so that way the box is, my mouse is in the middle of the box. And then it's going to have, once again, make sure you add that space. Make sure you add that space there. The width. Everything else, I think I have everything else that I need as an expression, or that I'm going to be using as variables. So everything else can fit inside this second, inside of these quotes. So width, I'm going to do 20. Height, I'm going to do 20. I'm going to make a color for it. I'm going to make it red. You can use whatever color you want. Actually, there's only like 14. If you don't know how to do it, you can use hex code, but whatever. Just use red. Just use red. I'm also going to give it a background color so it has a border. So background, I'm going to make it black. And then I can bring that in a little bit. Last thing I need to do, because this is a progress bar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that way it's like as if the progress bar was already full to begin with. To do that, I'm just going to put a comma and 100. So that way I can actually see the red. Alright, now I'm going to do the same thing with the second window, adding text on top. So GUI 2 this time, add text. Where am I going to be putting that text? I'm going to be putting it pretty much the same position. So I'm just going to copy all this and I'm going to edit it. So the X position is going to be the same. The Y position, I'm going to drop it down a little bit because I don't want the text to be right up at the top of the box. I want it to be closer to the center of the middle of it. So I'm going to change that to -8. The width, I'm going to leave the same, but the height, I'm going to change it from being H20 to change it to be one row, R1, just one row of text. The color I'm going to get rid of. The background black, I'm going to keep the background part of it, but I'm going to get rid of the black part, and I'm going to, I'm going to change the black to trans. So background trans. I'm also going to center the text in within that width that I've given it. And the text that I'm going to display is whatever the current value of index is. So I'm going to take this 100, get rid of that, and replace it with a percent mark, then a space, and then the word index. So if it's the first button, it'll have a 1, etc., etc. Now let me go ahead and change the font so that way it looks a little bit better, because this is going to be, the default font is like size 8, not bold or whatever. So I'm going to go down to here, right after the second Winset trans color. I'm going to add a new line and I'm going to say GUI, 2, font. And I'm going to set the color to be black. It's black by default, but whatever. I'll add black anyways. And then I'm going to say S for size. I'm going to set it to 10. And then beside that, I'm going to type bold. And that's it. I'll leave it Arial as the default. So I'll just leave it at that. That's fine. I think we have enough. So right now, we've set it up so that way we can press this. It'll change the value of is pressed to 1, but we have nothing to set it back again. So let's go ahead and create a condition that actually allows it to be set back to 0 again, so that way we can record a new position. So what I'm going to say is else if, so after my if statement, after it ends, I'm going to add else if, not, this time I'm going to be, I don't want to look to see if I'm pressing control, I want to see if I'm not pressing control. So to do that, it's exclamation point, get key state, open and close parentheses inside of quotes, CTRL. And that variable, I want to see this time if that variable is, if it equals 1. So the way I can do that is just by saying if is pressed. I can leave it just like that. Me leaving it exactly like this is the exact same as if I said, does the value of is pressed equals 1. It's the exact same thing. I'll leave it as is 1 equals 1. Okay. I'll leave it as equals 1. It's a little bit more clear. All I'm going to do now, this is only going to be one line of code, so technically I can get rid of these open and close braces, because if my if statements or whatever only have one line of code after them, then I don't need the braces. But to make it clear for you, make it easier for you, I'll put the braces in. All I'm going to do, if those two statements are true, like if I'm not pressing control and if the value of is pressed equals 1, change the value of is pressed back to 0. So now I can go ahead and add a new position afterwards. Once all of that is done, so I've been running this, I've added all my positions, I'm done, I've hit escape now, that takes me outside of that while loop. After I get out of the while loop, well, I still have that tooltip on, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off that tooltip by just typing tooltip and then a comma. I don't even need the comma, but I like to do it. Add a comma and nothing else. That'll turn it off. Next thing I'm going to do is I still have those windows that I created. They're still showing, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of them because I don't need them anymore. So I'm going to take these two lines here, GUI1 destroy, GUI2 destroy, and I'm going to put them up into here and destroy those two windows. Okay, we're done. We can now record some positions. So let's go ahead and save this and run it. So save it, run it, and for me, my key is number pad 1. So if I press number pad 1, I get this tooltip that says press control to record a new position, press escape to stop. I'm going to go here, press control, there. You should go ahead and try yours. And then I'm going to hit escape and it should close everything out. Okay, good. We've recorded those positions. Alright, let's go ahead and playback now. For the playback, what we're going to do is we are going to create a toggle variable. And all we're going to do is we're going to create a variable, and then whatever its current value is, as soon as I press the hotkey, it's going to switch the value. So if it was 1, it's going to switch it to 0. If it was 0, it's going to switch it to 1. So I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call it go. And I'm going to set it, say colon equals not go. So go equals the opposite value of its current value. So if it equaled 0, now it equals 1. If it equaled 1, now it equals 0. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that we want to loop infinite amount of times. So I'm going to create a while loop. I'm going to say while go. So this is another way I can, here, I'll make it easy for you. While go equals 1. While go equals 1, go into that loop and then create another loop. And how many times is so this is going to be a nested loop, or a loop within a loop. And this loop, how many times are we going to loop? We are going to loop the number of positions we saved. To do that, I'm going to say loop, comma, and then because this is going to be a variable or an expression, I'm going to put a % mark and then a space. And then beside that, I'm going to take that array that I've created, and I'm going to say position dot length. So it's going to, with this dot length, is going to do is it's going to return, it returns the number of indexes or the positions that I've used in my array. So it's going to return that value, and that's how many times I want to loop. Inside of that loop is where all the busy stuff happens. What do I want to do? Okay, for debugging purposes, we'll use a tooltip, and in the tooltip, all I'm going to do is tell me which position we're currently on. So to do that, I'm going to type tooltip, comma, then a % mark, space, and then I'm going to use, this time instead of using that variable that I created called index, I'm going to use a built-in variable that's called a index, which tells me how many times I've gone through this loop. So a underscore index. So if it's the first time through the loop, a index equals 1, etc., etc. Okay, what else am I going to do? I am going to, did we add our delay? Yes, we did. I'm going to change the delay to 300, so it's a little bit slower. Next thing, for debugging purposes, before we start clicking everywhere, we want to make sure everything's it's moving around the way we want. So what we'll do is we'll use a mouse move instead. Plus, mouse move it will help with if we're sending keystrokes or whatever too. But we'll do mouse move. Where are we going to move? We are going to move to the current position index dot x, the current position index dot y. Position, the current index is a index. So the first time it's 1, position 1 dot x, which is those things that we created before. Where were they? Right here. So I'm referencing that x, and then I'm going to reference that y. And then those x and y have values. Dot x and position a index dot y. Go ahead and move to that position. And now, because this is a toggle, okay, so this is a toggle, so I can press number pad 2. If it's the first time, it's going to come in here and it's going to start doing all this loop. If I press number pad 2 again, it's going to swap the value for go, so this won't be true anymore, and it'll allow me to exit. But I'm on an inner loop in here, so what would happen is it has to wait for it to finish looping through all these, and if I have like 100 positions, it has to wait for it to finish looping through all those 100 positions to get out of this loop, back into this loop where it can test to see if go equals 0 or not. So what I'm going to do is in here I'm also going to, before I do the move and the tooltip, before I do that I'm going to test to see is the value of go still 1? So I'm going to say if go equals 0, if go equals 0, yeah. If go equals 0, then I'm going to turn off the tooltip, and I think I can just return. There was other things I did before, but I think this time instead of me breaking out, I can just return. So I can exit out of this hotkey. So this hotkey, as soon as I get to that point, it just returns. So I turned off the tooltip, return. Alright, I think just in case it's actually out here, like let's say it's just about to go back into this loop, when it encounters that go equals 0, it's going to end up coming out to here. So what I'll do is I'll also turn off the tooltip here. Okay. You know what? I can do it without both of those. I'll just do this. Break 2. So break means exit out of the loop that I'm currently in. Break 2 means break out of 2 loops. So this is one loop, it breaks out, back into this loop, then it's going to break out of that, back out. So break out of 2 loops. And I think that's it. I think we have a program. So I'm going to run this, and we'll do our test. Number pad 1 to start recording. Control to select my positions. Escape to stop. Number pad 2 to start playback. Number pad 2 again to stop it. Okay, let's try it again. Number pad 2 is on. Now let's test my pause key. For me, I have to press function plus pause, but you might just be able to press pause. I have to hit the FN key. FN pause. So it pauses, I can do something else, and then when I'm ready I can unpause it again. Because right now, if I hit number pad 2, when I start it again, it starts from 0. So if I had 100 positions, I might not want to start from 0 just so I can do something quick. But anyways, that's that. Okay, so that is that. What we can do now is we can add a click to it. So after it moves the cursor there, we'll just click. We'll run that, and I'll switch to something else so that way it can actually demonstrate clicks. Alright, start recording. Control. Alright, escape. Number pad 2 to start. Number pad 2 to stop. Or, if I want to use this to create swap between windows. Escape. Number pad 2. Okay, so that's that. Now let's go into what if you want to use this like I showed at the end of the demo, where you want to make it so that way you can create more macros that do other things than just besides click. Maybe you want it to right click sometimes, maybe you want it to left click sometimes. We're not going to go too deep into this, like we're only going to scratch the surface. But one way that you can do it is you can create let's say an object for every single position or something like that, and then you can have a bunch of different flags to test. Is the value of this flag a 1 or a 0? If it's a 1, I want you to click once. If it's a 2, I want you to right click once. If it's a 3, I want you to click some value of some other variable amount of times, right? But we'll skim the surface of this. So what I'm going to do, if that's the case, if I'm creating that kind of macro, maybe I don't want to have this loop, infinite loop. Maybe I just want it to do it once. So for that, I'm going to get rid of this while loop, and instead we're just going to have the inner loop. So it's only going to do this particular action once. And instead of breaking twice, I just need to break once now. I'll get rid of the tooltip. I'll get rid of this. Okay, so where am I? I'm going to get, like I said, if I only have one line of code after my if statement, I don't need these braces. So this time I'm going to get rid of that to condense this down a little bit. Oops. And I'm going to move that there. Okay, things are a little bit more organized now. Okay. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show a brief demonstration of how you can go about doing this. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to move to that position, and then I'm going to send something from an array that I'm going to call an action list. Oops. So I'm going to send comma %mark space action underscore list. So I haven't created this list yet, but I'm just getting ready to do it. So I'm going to send action list at the current index. So I'm going to create a list of things, and depending on what position I'm looping through currently, that's the action it's going to take. So it's going to send, I can send clicks, I can send right clicks, I can send text, I can send a whole bunch of other things. So I'm going to send something from my action list. So up here, I'm going to create an array. So action list colon equals an array. Now I don't like typing out comma comma. I mean quote quote comma quote quote comma. That's annoying to me. So I actually created a tool. That's all I'm going to be doing with the tool that I'm just using. It's going to do that for me. That's all this thing's going to do. So don't worry. And this is available on my channel in the scripts playlist. But I'm lazy AF. So I'm going to create an array. I'll take that. I can get rid of that. I'm going to double space to limit. Okay, so I'm just going to set up a couple of things. So we're going to record, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to record 5 things. Okay, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to, inside of French braces, the curly braces, inside of that I'm going to say click at the position that I had stored. And then when it clicks, I'm going to say this is text So perhaps I'm creating a macro that goes through a web page or something and clicks on a edit and then dumps some text into it. There's other ways of doing it, but whatever. This is what I'm doing. Click in that edit box and then type in that text. And then that's what it's going to do at that first position. The second position, what it's going to do is it's going to just click. Then what it's going to do is it's going to right click at a position. So when you right click you get this, so we'll get it to do that. So we will I think I can just do it like R button. I think I could have done the other one just as L button, but I don't usually send text. I don't like sending stuff. I don't like typing. I do a lot of programming, but I don't know, it's different somehow. Right button. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click somewhere else. So this tool right here, when I double space, it automatically moves into that next element. You'll see it. I'll paste it up here afterwards. So just make sure you don't try to do this. This is what it actually looks like up here. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to say I'll only do 4 things. I'll do 4 things. No, I'll add one more. I'll do another click, and then I'll say goodbye. Okay, everything I need. Clipboard, I'm done. Okay, so this is what I did. All that did was just added those quotes. So this is the first, when I move to the first position, this is what it's going to do. It's going to click, and then it's going to type out this. Then it's going to go to when I get to the second position, it's just going to click. The third position, it's going to do the right mouse button, click, or right click. Then it's going to go to the next position, click, and this is the end of the tutorial, and then it's going to click to a new position and say goodbye. Alright. To make this type out a lot faster, what I'm going to do is up at the top of my script here, I'm going to type out send mode, comma, input. Okay. So this is just going to make it type it out faster, and if I type any keys while it's doing it, it'll buffer those and play them after it's done what I've told it to do. Okay, I think I'm good. Yeah. All right, so I think this is the last demo we're going to be doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to some white space. I'm going to hit record, and I have 5 positions I want. So the first one, it's going to click somewhere and type something. Then I'm going to get it to switch windows. And then it's going to come down and it's going to come over here and it's going to right click. And then it's going to come over here and it's going to click and type out, this is the end of the tutorial. And then it's going to come down here and it's going to type goodbye. I'm going to slow this down a little bit. Oh, shoots. I got it. That means I have to do that again. Oh, well. It's not like it took forever to do that. Okay. So once again, here is the first thing, here is the second thing, here is the third thing, here is the fourth thing, and here is the fifth thing. Alright. If I hit number pad 2, here we go. Alright, this is it, guys. Did it really? Oh, no, I added the delay. No, I didn't. Oh, my bad. Okay, I know what's going on. Okay, my bad, guys. We have to do that one more time. I forgot to we created a variable for delay, but we never actually used it. So where do we use that delay? After that click that we had before, after the mouse move we had initially, then what we're going to do is we're going to sleep. How long are we going to sleep? We're going to sleep delay, which is now 1 second. Alright, last time, promise. Let me get some white space. Okay, so record. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. Alright, number pad 2. Okay. That was too quick. Anyways, as long as you follow along, it did whatever for you. Okay? Anyways, that's it for this tutorial. 52 minutes is a little bit better than an hour and 1 minute, which was the last time. Alright, peace out.